The Old Bailey is the greatest stage for any criminal barrister. Annie Evans is about to prosecute her first murder here.
But here we are, this is court 2 at the Old Bailey, as you can see, so I'll take you in and I'll show you. It is absolutely the most impressive stage for a barrister. All the big trials that anyone can think about, IRA trials, terrorism trials, back in the 50s, trials where the person's life was in danger because capital punishment was still in existence.
But this isn't just a first for Annie, it's a first for the court. She is the standard bearer for a revolution in the way that justice is administered. The murder victim in the Old Bailey case is Stephen Jeeves, a father of 6 who was stabbed in a shopping centre car park.
You can see him standing out in the middle of the square and the defendant's approaching him. Of course, as is so often the case, the murder actually happens just off screen, so you don't see that occur, so you can't see who did it. But within moments, Stephen Jeeves comes back onto the screen. You can see he's got this spreading blood appearing on his T-shirt as he walks across the square diagonally and falls to the ground, where he then dies. It's simply not entirely clear who did what, but there are 3 people clearly in the frame at the time he was stabbed. And it's just my job to present the prosecution evidence in the clearest way I can for the jury to decide who, if any of those 3, was the murderer.
Historically, all barristers have been self-employed and independent of the state, but now centuries of tradition are being overturned. Annie is one of the first barristers to be employed full-time to prosecute on behalf of the state. This fundamental change is seen by many as a threat to justice. All Annie's opponents in this case remain self-employed.
I've got the most senior barristers against me. I've got the leader of the circuit and I've got the chairman of the criminal bar, 2 of the QCs against me. A lot of very, very experienced people against me, but I mustn't let that put me off. After all, I've been at the bar for 24 years, so I have to put those considerations to one side.
The Crown Prosecution Service used to hire self-employed barristers to run all its cases. Now the CPS is employing its own barristers to look after 1/4 of all the work. So far in Birmingham, the CPS has recruited 6. One of them, Sandrea Maynard, is not short of briefs.
Well, this is your trial for Monday, but you've got a trial fixed for Wednesday as well. So it's a bit tight, isn't it?
No.
You sure? Will you finish
What's
this?
it listing? What's the listing for it?
Well, what time? I don't know yet.
We're only having 3 witnesses, so I don't understand why it's going to go longer than 2 days.
Well, I don't mind if you can finish it in 2 days. We can do that Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday you can do the Maxine Williams trial.
Cool.
And then Friday I'll try and keep you in the office.
You're so kind.
The man in charge in Birmingham is the Chief Crown Prosecutor for the West Midlands, David Blundell.
I think from the bar's point of view, they need to be realistic. They need to recognise that the environment has changed. There's no good them worrying about the CPS being there. They are going to be there, and they're going to be there in increasing numbers, so they just need to work in a competitive environment as opposed to an environment where before it was just them and other barristers and nobody else got a look in. It's changed. They're going to have to get used to it. We won't employ them to do things that we can do just as well, cheaper and quicker.
Ah! I'm loving this now. I've just spotted a name on here I can't do. Da, 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 da. Oh, I'm going to love this. This is called Getting Rid of Work. I can't do this, gentlemen.
Why?
Ex-client.
Who's he?
I know him, and he's familiar.
Okay, I'll get rid of it then.
So yeah, sorry, I've just spotted the name.
No, it's alright.
It's not on purpose. I wish I could do that for all the rest, but I can't. So yeah, that one will have to go out.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, that's. See, I'm down to 6 now. Comfortable with 6. We'll put a big line through that, shall we? The way in which the structure's changing, it seems that we're moving more towards, if I say this, an Americanised system of having a sort of district attorney and district defence office. Because now quite a lot of barristers are working in-house with solicitors' firms, and CPS have made an active recruitment drive to bring in barristers from the independent sector to come and work for them in-house as well. So it's, I think I jumped ship at the right time.
Independent barrister Dickie Bond is one of 63 self-employed members of Citadel Chambers in Birmingham. He pays a proportion of his income to the clerks who take bookings for him. Half of the work comes from solicitors to defend clients. The other half used to come from the Crown Prosecution Service. He's feeling the pinch.
It's very worrying for every member of the independent bar, because in the old days, the Crown Prosecution Service invariably instructed the independent bar to undertake their cases. And don't forget, almost half the work available is prosecution work. So overnight, we've lost a huge amount of the available work to the independent bar.
These are the 3 robbers coming in. Over here is the security guard.
Dickie's still getting prosecution work. Today it's a gang accused of a string of robberies. He's meeting a detective to assess the evidence.
And he fights this first robber. He's then joined by one of the robbers who takes over the violence. He did his best to stop these robbers taking stuff. Good for him.
It's an excessive amount of violence used just to nick a few phones, really.
And as you can see, he ends up on the ground. The robber won't leave it alone. He chose his warrant card because he's a special constable. Round the back at this moment in time, there's one of the robbers getting members of staff to help them unroll a duvet cover, which they were going to use to take the mobile phones away. They don't actually put any of the property in there because words of warning are being shouted from the front. And there they are, leaving empty-handed.
Each of the 4 defendants in the robbery case has their own barrister. They assemble in the private robing room at Birmingham Crown Court, ready to do battle. Dickie will open the case for the prosecution. Annie has been able to focus solely on the Old Bailey case for weeks.
Will you ring the Old Bailey? Just to see if we've got any idea about whether we're going to get this caught or not.
Along with her deputy, Peter Shaw, she's had her diary cleared of other work. The CPS can do this because their barristers are paid a salary rather than by the case. Annie's earnings have dropped sharply since joining the CPS, but there are benefits.
Well, in terms of my personal life, it's a huge benefit working within the CPS. Of course, it is if you're working within the umbrella of any large organisation. I mean, The idea of having a paid holiday is absolutely fantastic. And that they pay me the same whether I'm in court or not. And I suppose it's something I didn't realise would be so attractive, the idea of a regular salary. And of course, it's easier for me. It's not always terribly easy, but it's much easier for me to take time off as and when I need it, say for family commitments.
The Old Bailey prosecution will depend on CCTV. Annie and Peter are on their way to meet detectives at the murder scene.
And that's the camera, obviously, that covers the CCTV.
Is that the only camera that's covered?
Initially, when you see them, it's off screen, which they then come back into camera.
What, you mean he's stabbed
Slightly
over there?
slightly out of the line.
Where was this cut?
Body's out the front here, in front of the,
To the left. If there's a serious case, it'll be passed to me virtually straight away. So I'm involved even pre-charge here, so I can keep control of the case all the way along. If I was in chambers, I'd have to wait until this unit briefed out a brief to me, and that's very often at a stage just maybe a week before the first appearance in the Crown Court. So I've missed out on all the initial procedures. I haven't been able to advise on the charge, and I don't feel that I would be as on top of the case as I am being involved straight away.
A revolution may be taking place at the criminal bar, but the profession is attracting record numbers of entrants. Anna de Warner-Kluger has wanted to be a barrister since she was a child.
Today is a really big day for me because it's what I've always wanted to happen, and it's a really big day for my mum as well because she's watched me talk about this for what probably seems like forever to her. So it's quite nice to sort of not have a conclusion, but a conclusion to this part of things.
This evening, Anna will at last become a barrister at Middle Temple, one of the 4 ancient inns of court which retain the exclusive right to call students to the bar.
Hello, I'm here to collect my wig and gown.
Right, okay, yes. Pop down and see my colleagues at the end and we'll look after you.
Thank you.
Just lift your head up slightly. Push it down a wee bit. Your hair's quite strong, you see. And so you should sit down on the
I've been
crown.
trying to make it go flat all night.
How's that feel?
Okay.
Okay, I'll try you with the gown, and then you can have a look in the mirror.
Excellent.
Have you got a collarette
No,
for
I'm
your
going to need to
occasion?
pick one up.
So we need to
That's
buy one of
okay.
those. Yeah, sure. That's your
Thank you.
gown. They're a little bit easier because they're
Thank
just
you.
sized by
Yeah,
the length,
they
so
will.
that's not a problem. Have a look in the mirror.
Anna finally gets to wear a wig and gown.
Thank you.
The call ceremony has remained unchanged for 400 years. In charge tonight is Deputy Under-Treasurer for Education, Krista Richmond.
It's just for the 3 columns, because I know as I line them up, they'll be all over the place. So if I have a point on the floor which I can point to, it'll be that little bit easier, I hope.
We do plain or the lace collar, okay? If you slip your gown and jacket off slightly off the shoulder, and I'll just pull it around for you.
Thank
And
you.
it'll just
Shall I
cover up
turn around?
everything. No, that should be okay. Just turn like that.
It feels fine. Yep. Excellent.
The bands sit outside the jacket, and that's
Outside my jacket.
That's right.
Like that.
That's it.
Excellent. Great. Okay.
The benches will sit along here, behind the cupboard. As I say, a reader and treasurer will be lined up here. I'll do my administrative bit here, and the guests of the callees will sit along here in the sort of theatre bit, if you like.
Tonight for my call night, my mother and my aunt are coming, and they're both really excited. almost maybe more excited than I am, because they're taking the whole day to decide what they're wearing and planning their route. Thank you very much.
Many thanks. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Being called to the bar is just a first step. What all new barristers need next is an apprenticeship or pupillage in a barrister's chambers. Only 1 in 5 will succeed. It took Kokoli Pandey 2 years to get this far.
Pupillage is this training period for when you've just qualified as a barrister. So when you've finished bar school, the next stage is to go into practice. And so you spend 6 months following a more senior barrister and then 6 months on your feet, as we call it, which is basically doing very sort of small, minor cases and then sort of building up your advocacy practice. And that's the stage that I'm in. It's a very difficult job to do and there's a lot of responsibility attached to it. So I think you really have to want it if you do want to succeed and if you want to make a career of it. And by that I mean if you want to do it for the next 25, 30 years, then I think you have to be really I think you have to devote yourself to it mentally and physically, otherwise you won't be able to survive in this profession.
Even a pupillage is no guarantee of a career at the bar. Kokoli is one of 4 pupils chasing a permanent position known as a tenancy. Their head of chambers is Mark Love.
Pupillage is a very demanding time because ultimately, to practice as a barrister, you have to secure a tenancy. I suspect at the moment, from the feedback that I'm getting from the clerks, and the fact that we historically have always been perhaps over-optimistic about the future, that we are going to be able to provide 2 tenancies. I'd be surprised if we do better than that.
It's a personal thing. You've been in chambers for about 18 months and you've given your all, and if that's not good enough, then it is going to hurt.
You've got 2 at Horsley Road. One's a trial. It'd be best to try and do a pre-trial of you as well. If you can't, just give us a call and I'll give you
I have prepared myself for that possibility, but I haven't prepared myself for hearing them say, "We don't want you in our chambers."
At the start of the robbery trial, there's a significant development. Dickie secures newly enhanced CCTV of one of the robberies.
The footage is so clear, you can plainly see that one of the robbers is actually one of the defendants sitting in the dock. The case has certainly strengthened against him.
Are these notices of additional evidence?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bond.
Together with that as a notice of additional evidence.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful to you.
Okay.
This will no doubt assist me with what has to take place this afternoon.
Well, it should do.
Thank you very much. I think I'll break now for some lunch, Mr. Bond.
We anticipate that this afternoon he'll plead guilty to that offence.
You hope.
Because he's stuffed.
He might be stuffed, but he might just sit there and say, "You prove it."
Can I have those photos back so I can just put them in the hands of the jury?
And the reason why we're where we are is because the Crown has been their usual self, tardy, and serve things at the last minute. Anyway, I've got to go and get some lunch now. I can't spend much more time discussing this nonsense with you.
Your client won't think it's nonsense.
My client needs discipline, proper upbringing, and not to be excluded from the educational system. If all those things were put in place, you wouldn't be making a living out of him now.
And nor would you.
At Kokoli's chambers, a team of clerks runs the pupils' lives. Chief Clerk Steve Lavelle decides who gets which case.
Hi, Coley. Tomorrow, West London Mags, papers will be in your pigeonhole. Okay, it's for Duncan Lewis Lizards. Okay, thanks, bye.
Kokoli has been sent to Tower Bridge Magistrates Court. With a decision on tenancy looming, she needs to impress.
No! It's closed. They've sent everyone to Camberwell Green. Oh, I have to call the court and tell them I'm on my way. That's what happens. It so often happens, especially on Saturdays. I get called up and told to go to, for example, Greenwich Court. Greenwich is closed, and then I have to go all the way to Woolwich. This always happens. I get told that we're at one court. I don't get told of the change of information. Camberwell Green.
They've got to make it. They've got to make it. Which way they've got to do it, they've got to get there. We can always inform the courts that they may be running 5-10 minutes late, but they've got to do it.
Please take my name and give it to the custody and the court so that they know that he's got counsel and I'm on my way. I'll be late.
Barristers go where they're told.
Just to make it as logical.
Duty of barrister, they're going to make it or break it. They've got to make it, they've got to do what they're told.
And in Margate, Kokoli's first challenge is to find the town's magistrates' court.
This is my court guide, which is my trusty companion whenever I'm going to courts which are quite far away. I've been here a couple of times before, so I think I can remember my way. I just follow the seafront and I think I'm on the right track, really. I have to look for a clock tower somewhere along the way. I don't anticipate being paid more than about £50. Of course, that varies. I can't be sure, but each appearance would be in the region of £50 with your traveller costs included. My ticket for the train cost about £21.90, something like that. It was quite expensive.
Have you been to see your punter with these?
It's called the client punter. It's not a chip shop.
Or a betting shop. Your lay client.
Yes, right, that's better. No, I've not been to see Mr. Sterling, the lay client, as yet, Mr. Bond.
Mr. Sterling? Mr. Sterling, the robber with previous convictions for robbery, who's pleading halfway through his trial to robbery.
You'll get students at universities writing in saying that you shouldn't have said that.
Really? Oh, gosh, because they're all not guilty.
That's right. Presumed innocent, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
There you go.
The defendant, Ricardo Sterling, does plead guilty to one of the robberies, leaving Dickie to prove the rest of the charges. At the end of a 12-hour day, Kokoli arrives home.
I don't spend a lot of time here, I have to be quite honest. I just basically come here to sleep in the evenings because I spend a lot of time in chambers. And then if I do have a free moment, I like to go and visit my other friends who are in London, and if I am free at the weekend I like to go home to see my parents, but that's not very often because I work on Saturday mornings. Yes, this is where I live. I've lived here since October.
Kokoli rents a single room in the East End as she earns less than £10,000 a year.
This is hopefully going to be temporary for me, but unfortunately it's quite necessary at the moment. Just because I don't earn very much, and when I moved to London I didn't know many people, so it wasn't really possible to go to house share, and this enables me to sort of have some independence and sort of live quite economically. I was brought up in Handsworth in Birmingham, which is not perhaps one of the safest places in England. My parents were very inspiring when we were little, and always said that we were capable of doing whatever we wanted to. So from a young age, I didn't feel that there were any boundaries or things that I couldn't achieve. And the spirit has always been instilled in me that if I don't give up, I will get there eventually. And so I'm grateful to my parents that they were always so positive, even though things didn't always seem as if they would go according to plan.
Anna, Dawana, Claude. You won't get it wrong.
Middle Temple is the last of the 4 inns to require its students to wear full wig and gown to be called to the bar.
Miss Anna Dawana Kludji.
Dawana Kludji, in the name of the Masters of the Bench, I call you to the degree of the upper bar.
I didn't fall over, I didn't forget to bow, I didn't forget to shake his hand. So it went well.
It was a lovely ceremony. That was very and short.
Because there were so few of us.
It's still calling you Baby Anna. I say you're not a baby anymore.
Hey ladies, straight to me, little smiles again this way. Fantastic. And one more time, straight to me, one more time. Lovely.
It's like you are in a great hall. I wouldn't say it like you are in Buckingham Palace, but it feels like a great hall, having dinner in a great hall. A historic one too, you know.
What Anna needs now is a place in a barrister's chambers.
I'm confident and hopeful that this year I'll get pupillage. There's no plan B.
The first state prosecution of a murder at the Old Bailey is about to begin. Annie's performance against some of the country's leading QCs will be closely scrutinised, and she needs to look her best.
I've got to show them by my manner and my confidence within moments of starting the trial that I am up to doing it, because if they see a chink, they'll go for it. I have no doubt. So I have to appear doubly confident. Just stand a little bit too tight. Three of those, please. And 2 of the ones with no bit behind it. All right, thank you. Do you sell many of these?
Not many. Some of them, yes. There are so many.
The in-house CPS team could be up to 50% cheaper than hiring barristers from the independent bar.
So this is just the advocates area. So down here we've got the ladies' robing room, which is really small, and this huge men's robing room. I mean, because in the days when it was built, it was virtually all men who were barristers here. And then up the stairs there's a very large area. It's called the bar mess, where they serve coffee all day and you can go and get lunch and stuff like that. But this is the advocates area. Oh, it's absolutely tiny. And now, really, it's almost equal numbers here, so it's a very unfair distribution.
Because the CPS is saving money, the pressure is on to prove that justice isn't compromised. One of Annie's final duties before opening the case for the prosecution is to meet Stephen Jeeves's widow, Janet.
I don't like to put my wig on when I go in and talk to them. I don't want to make myself too divorced from reality, but there has to be a slight air of authority and leadership, so that's what I'm going to do now. Here we are. It's a really difficult day, I know. If you hear bits of the evidence that really upset you, you've got to keep quiet. I'm not sure I could. So you absolutely, hand in the mouth, will go. Because it's incredibly difficult, if we get outbursts from the public gallery, to carry on.
Yeah.
And if one of you feels that you can't stand it, can you pull the other one out? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
if you ever do want a break from court, we'll be able to say, look, tomorrow's not going to be particularly important for you necessarily.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's legal argument which can go on for hours, I can assure you.
Yeah, good
and
idea.
if you do want a break, then we can hopefully predict as to when those days are going to crop up.
Yeah, very good idea. Next, most importantly, are there any questions you've got for me? Now I've said that, immediately you can't think of anything.
No, we had plenty questions on our app, but yeah.
But Peter's?
Yeah. I'll sort of cross that when it comes. I think we decided to sort of take each day
As it comes.
Yeah.
So important, as I say, you don't feel left out. We're here to look after you. Okay, lovely. And please, call me Annie. Okay, jolly good.
Shall I wait for you now?
Yeah, and then we'll go down together. Okay.
Although, like, I've got 5 sons still at home and all their friends come round, but it's just so quiet and it just feels empty. There's no life in the house no more. I mean, the night they killed Steve, they killed our whole family. The whole family died that night.
The CPS decision to employ their own barristers may threaten the livelihood of Dickie.
All right, great.
Citadel's head of chambers, Andrew Fisher, and the head of advocacy, Pat Thomas QC. But they say it's not just about money, it's about quality of justice.
The only real public interest in the criminal justice system is that serious criminals are properly and fairly convicted and then dealt with, as most of the public would prefer, harshly thereafter. But unless you've got the most competent and able people to do that job, then it won't happen, or there'll be appeals and they'll get out on appeal and so on.
At the moment, people trust a jury's verdict. The moment that comes into the system, a gross disparity between the experience and skills of defence and prosecution barristers, you're going to get the situation that you have in many other countries, where people look at the outcome and say, oh, well, the reason that this person was acquitted was not because he was not guilty, but because he had a more expensive advocate than the prosecutor.
At the Old Bailey, the police also have questions about the prosecution of the murder case.
Can you sort of give us a view as to how you intend to cross-examine him, specifically in terms of the use of the CCTV? How much detail are we going to actually go into?
Absolutely. As far as Manzanese is concerned, we've actually got him kicking on the CCTV. But now's our opportunity to ask him, what exactly do you think you're doing here that you say you need to do in self-defence? You find if you're at the independent bar and you haven't worked so closely with police officers that they sort of tend to more let you get on with your job. I know it's born from anxiety, but it makes me anxious too.
The question is for me, do you intend using the same format or procedure with all of the defendants actually going through using the schedule not in its entirety, because we don't want to bore the jury.
No, exactly.
But
exactly.
There are pertinent points within the schedule that Nathan's prepared that we do want to go through with each defendant.
Absolutely. It's a learning curve. But of course it also depends on personalities. I could have been more abrupt and just told the officer earlier on that the examination of witnesses in court was my business, but I don't want to run it in such a dictatorial style. I want to try and be as cooperative as possible, but it has got in the way a bit, especially today.
One of the problems is the people who are moving across from the bar to the CPS. And of course, and there's going to be a great variety of those, and there are going to be people, very competent advocates, who will move across for lifestyle reasons.
No stress.
No stress. They don't want to work every night and every weekend, and a wholly different sort of approach and nature to the job, and the security of income.
And it does seem to me that the cushion of employment is going to provide a very different kind of approach to the challenges of advocacy from those provided by the stimulus of independence, and frankly not knowing where your next brief is coming from unless you have demonstrated by the way you did the last one that you're worthy of it.
The CPS has even begun to offer some pupilages, but Kokoli believes she's received a more rounded training at the independent bar.
Like you've played before, haven't you?
Hi, Steve.
Right, Cody, tomorrow, West London Meds, a sentence. There's your brief.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the beauty of being at the independent bar means that, you know, you can do both defence and prosecution, which gives you a real understanding of what it's like to be on each side. And I think it would make you a better prosecutor or a better defence barrister to know what arguments to anticipate, and really also what is expected of you as a prosecutor or a defender.
But Anna, who's finding it tough to get a pupillage, is keeping an open mind.
I think that working for the CPS is definitely an option, especially as their reputation for pupilages and training contracts is so much better now than it was before. But I want to be self-employed.
With competition for pupillages intense, Anna needs to find a way of enhancing her credentials. In the robbery trial, the teenager accused of driving the getaway car, Skylar Ellis, has been giving evidence.
I've been going through her version of events which we're hearing about for the first time and trying to pick it apart.
He slaughtered her and he's completely trashed her and makes my decision not to call my client the right and wise one.
She said that she was not guilty and she cried a lot. I do not feel at all guilty about making her cry.
Well, he did say something very cheesy. Dry your eyes, Skylar.
Yeah. Did I? You can make a song out of that.
Where are you going with that?
There's a song there.
Dry your eyes, Skylar.
You know what will happen now? She'll be acquitted.
Yeah.
She'll be acquitted. You know that? Yeah.
Well, yeah. The other defenders are saying, "Thank God, I didn't get bombed."
In order to improve their chances of securing tenancy, many young barristers take on unpaid cases. Today, Kokoli's working for the Free Representation Unit, which works with the barristers' professional body, the Bar Council.
Okay. Now, before we start with the conference, I just want to talk to you about my role as your Free Representation Unit rep.
The unit helps people who can't afford a barrister. Kokoli's case involves an office worker who says she's been unfairly dismissed by her employer, the Metropolitan Police.
She says that she assured you that she would help you out, and whenever she talked to you about helping you out, assisting you with all of the filing and the fixed penalty notices, that you'd shrug your shoulders or that you'd be aggressive, or, you know, giving her the impression that you didn't want any help.
Like I said, it's just the way I am sometimes. I can't help the way I...
Yeah, okay. Do you want to have a break for a bit? Okay. Yeah. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Don't worry. There will be an end to this in a while. You don't have to go through this anymore. There will be a result, okay? Don't worry. If she didn't have someone from Free representing her, then I think what would happen is that she would basically be representing herself.
or she would just drop the case. And I think that's the worst thing about these kind of situations, is that you can have a problem with your employers, and they have the resources to obviously get lawyers and get the right advice. But on the other side, you can be completely alone in this, and there will be no one who will help you unless you have organisations like these.
In order to secure a future for herself, Anna has come up with a plan.
I'm off to Middle Temple because I have a scholarship interview for an internship in Canada or America. It's 6 weeks to 6 months abroad, just so you can understand how other legal systems work and perhaps explain how ours work. And it'll just be interesting to see how other systems operate.
She hopes that winning a scholarship will lead to a pupillage.
Each time you get a pupillage rejection, it is a huge knockback, and it's obviously difficult to take when it's something that you want so badly. But I have an almost sick obsession with making sure that I keep up tempo about it, with making sure that I keep believing that I will get one, because I do believe that I'm good enough, and I think it would count against me if I started to let the rejections get me down and affect my performance in interviews and my application forms. So it's really all about keeping up the momentum. I think that if I got one of these internships, it would be good prep for pupillage. So I better get one.
Middle Temple, whose members include the most senior lawyers in the country, spends £1 million every year on student scholarships. Anna will have to wait a week to find out if she's the latest beneficiary. A mile away at the Old Bailey, things are going well for Annie and the CPS.
What's helping the prosecution case is that 2 of the defendants are running a cutthroat. One is suggesting that the other one murdered Stephen Jeeves, and the other one is clearly suggesting that the first one murdered Stephen Jeeves. And because of this very, very clear cutthroat between the 2 defendants, they're making my job easier, because they're bringing in all the relevant bad material about each other that in some cases I couldn't have used. So each of these defendants in their turn is shoring up my case by introducing this inadmissible stuff that I couldn't have done. So it's helping me. The cross-examination from these 2 defendants is covering ground that I would have covered if there hadn't been such a cutthroat. So to be fair, it's making my job much easier. In fact, one of the junior defence counsels said to me at the beginning of the defence case, well, you can just sit back now and watch us cut each other's throats. And there certainly has been an element of that.
She's got not just barristers there at the heart, is it 4 of them?
3 or 4.
3 or 4 of them are actual QCs. So she's not just got barristers up against her, she's got some of the best barristers up against her. But she's holding her own, she's doing good.
She's, very good.
She's not the biggest of people anyway.
No.
She's
lovely though, isn't she? Yeah. But we see her just as a prosecution at first, and she was very soft and...
softly spoken.
Yeah, and then
and
when we see her
smiling,
on the defence, she was totally different. She was very good.
We were all a bit shocked, actually.
This year alone, more than 2,000 cases will be taken in-house by the CPS in Birmingham. That leaves Dickie Bond with a lot more time on his hands.
This is the Birmingham Crown Court Open Day, where we bring all the kids along. My 2 come along to see what their father does, because I don't think they actually know what I do.
He's a barrister, and then that's all I really know about him.
Well, yes, the magistrates sit here, and the magistrates try offences that aren't as serious as in the Crown Court.
Did you get these to
What would you do if you were a judge?
Send people to prison.
Why would you send people to prison?
Because they're naughty, like me.
Right.
Prison now. Completely.
For how long?
Rest of your life. That will come up to a total.
That means you're not going to get any more pocket money for the rest of your life.
I've still got my mother.
Going.
No pocket money.
The days of me not being able to see my family are long gone. I actually see quite a lot of my children nowadays, which makes a nice, pleasant change on the one hand, but on the other hand, I'm obviously not earning as much as I used to.
Up this area here is what we use for the young offenders. Like I say, they're all kept apart. We've got male adults here, female down the bottom, and the young offenders are kept in this block here.
Yeah, you're probably going to be locked in there now. Do you want to have a try to see what it's like when you're locked in?
Yes, go on then.
Just ask a question.
Yeah, let's go. Just drop it. Just drop it and just walk away. See you right in the team.
Today, Kokoli will find out whether she's done enough to be made a tenant and have a future as an independent barrister.
I've been thinking about it all weekend, and I had bouts of feeling quite afraid, and I thought about what might happen if they don't want me, which is a possibility. It's been a very, very difficult few days, but I've really wanted this to come. I've been waiting for it for so long, so I just have to get on with it and accept my fate, I think.
This is going to be the room for the interview this evening. The tenancy committee has got 9 members. We'll interview them in alphabetical order, and they'll be asked similar questions, how their experiences so far of the work they've done, the kind of practices that they want to see in the future, and it's going to be a difficult decision.
But as you say, in 20 minutes your life could be great or it could be disaster.
The jury at the Old Bailey has retired to consider its verdict. It's a tense time for Annie as she waits to see whether she's won the biggest case of her career. In the robbery trial, Dickie is also waiting for a verdict.
You just don't know what happens inside the jury room. Cases where I think there's bound to be a conviction, juries acquit, and cases where I think a defendant's bound to be acquitted get convicted. You just cannot tell.
We've all rather gone off the boil, actually, this morning. And I've just finished a crossword. I've read every single national newspaper. Some people are managing to work and others are just pacing around, rather like me. I'm just pacing around.
I don't think people realise what family go through. It's the waiting. It's worse than actually listening to the lies.
To the trial. It's a lot worse than the trial.
Yeah.
And Anna's wait for the result of her scholarship interview is almost over.
I'd hope that now I'm a better person at interviews, and I hope that my experience has contributed to that. But I feel like I've grown. I feel like I'm better at them. But we'll see, won't we? I'd like to get it. We'll see.
It's quite a terrifying experience because there's a great deal riding on this. You have so many people who believe in you, like your family, who've seen you sort of go through the process of sort of wanting to become a barrister, then doing the studies and then becoming a pupil. So you're so close. And you yourself, you know that you're in touching distance of it, but you know, the door can snap shut and then you're sort of effectively back to square one. So everything that I've ever wanted, you know, for my future is riding on this.
We have a verdict. Right. Gentlemen, have the verdict on the
Thank
ground.
you.
Okay, thanks.
Oh dear.
You've no idea what they're going to say. I'm not even going to guess at what the verdicts are. It's an hour and a half.
Right. One of the reasons I'm here now, which I'm not for the other candidates, I wanted to give you the result of the Fox interview. And it's that you got the first 6 months of the year.
Oh, that's excellent. That's really good. That's
Never mind
really
what happens here. You.
That's fantastic.
It'll be September to February.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And the reason we didn't tell you earlier is that obviously we needed to clarify with the Canadian side, but they
That's
seem happy.
so good.
you
That's
got it?
amazing. Thank you. That's really good. I was really worried. Thank you
Congratulations,
so much.
and I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Krista. Oh, that's great. I've got to bring my mum and all of that.
I think it went quite well. I'm sort of still shaking from the nervous energy, but I gave it my all, I really did. I said, I think everything that I could have done to make them realise what I have to give to Chambers.
They asked my advice, I give them their advice, but Chambers' decision.
Hi, Mum. Oh, it didn't go well. So cool. I did get 6 months in Canada. Isn't that really good? She just came out and told me. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Hi.
Dickie has won. All the defendants in the robbery trial have been convicted. The 3 robbers are given sentences of up to 4 years. Their getaway driver, Skylar Ellis, is given community service because of previous good character.
I'm feeling quite happy at the moment because, you know, job done, to use a colloquial expression.
Bye, Mr. Bond. Lovely doing battle with you again.
Goodbye, Mr.
Look forward to
Claxton.
seeing you in the new year. Season's greetings
Merry
to you and the
Christmas.
family. Thank you very much, Mr. Bond.
Dickie believes his success as a barrister is precisely because of his independence from the state.
I personally wouldn't join the CPS because I want to have a balanced practice where I don't just appear for one side. I want to appear for both sides. I think it makes me a better advocate because when I defend, I always think, what would I do if I was prosecuting? And when I prosecute, I think, what would I do if I was defending? And I don't want to be tied to one side.
Hello.
Hi, Annie, it's Pete.
Oh, what have you got to tell me?
You've got a murder conviction. As against Lloyd.
Really?
Okay, so they thought he was the knife man. Okay, yeah.
What happened when they said guilty on Lloyd?
He sort of almost broke down immediately and said no, no, and started banging the handrail and crying his eyes out. And then the mother started saying, it wasn't my baby, you've got it wrong, and leaning over to the jury. And the judge started shouting, saying, bring him down. And Lloyd was saying, no, I'll calm down. And it was just going on, and the judge said, take him down. So I've never seen the judge get so angry, so it was very dramatic. So, are you feeling relieved?
Yeah.
I bet you are. You'll sleep tonight.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, I'm so pleased for you.
Thank you so much for your help. Take care.
Bye. Okay.
Bye. I have to say, it's the most enormous relief. Enormous relief.
It's been a big weight lifted. I mean, it'll never be the same because I've got a part of me missing, so... But at least we can get on with normal day-to-day activities now.
So you've got some justice?
Oh, definitely got justice.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yes.
3 men were accused of the murder of Stephen Jeeves. One, a 15-year-old, is found guilty and jailed for life. The other 2 are convicted of violent disorder and get 2.5 years each. For Annie, the verdicts show that despite the controversy, this fundamental change in the prosecution of crime is here to stay.
I hate the idea that it's spoken about in terms of a fight. But without doubt, the in-house advocacy strategy, it's such an efficient way of doing things. I can't see that it will do anything other than grow.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Bye. Bye. I'm in. Everyone's in. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He said, congratulations. You're in. And I should like to let you know that you're one of 4 new tenants.
Next week, the future is bright for Iqbal Mohammed.
I won! I got a judgment for £271.32. Fantastic.
New tenant Kokoli makes her first appearance in Crown Court.
Very excited, but my heart's beating very, very fast.
And our cameras provide a glimpse inside the highest court in the land.
5 judges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, will sit in a circle around there.
To learn more about lawyers and for a free Open University booklet, go to bbc.co.uk/barristers or phone 0870 900 0303.
Explosions, commander raids, captives released, and one big question: where did the Mumbai terrorists come from? Plus, the latest on the arrest of a top Tory, and Newsnight Review, beginning at 10:30 here on BBC Two.
Next, we join Stephen Fry for more QI.